Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. It's Time Magazine's Person of the Year Day, and it's going to be a very MAGA Christmas this year. President-elect Trump graced the cover and sat for a lengthy interview that had several newsy moments. We'll get into that in a minute, plus the latest on the Trump cabinet nomination process. There's a lot to go over, including Caitlin Clark bending the knee to the bullies in the WNBA. And I got a lot of thoughts on whether Santa Claus is a bully. Going to get to it. We got the fellas from the Ruthless program, Josh Holmes, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook. The man known to his minions as Comfortably Smug is running late. He'll be getting an earful on that, but he'll be here soon. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. The October 15th deadline has long passed. Are you prepared for what's coming? Do you owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Missed the deadline to file for an extension? Now that October 15th is behind us, the IRS may be ramping up enforcement. You could face wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, or even property seizures if you have not yet taken action. But there's hope. Tax Network USA has helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt and has filed over 10,000 tax returns. They specialize in helping people reduce their tax burdens, so visit tnusa.com/Megyn or just call 1-800-958-1000 for a free consultation. Their experts will walk you through a few simple questions to see how much you could save. Give it a try now before the IRS takes more aggressive steps. Take control and visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. We're sorry for our unprofessionalism. We have one colleague who, shall we say, is a little bit of a diva. And
Shocked that it's Smug. All right, so there's a lot to talk about today. The Time Magazine piece, of course, it's Donald Trump. I mean, I tweeted out saying, obviously, the finalists included Kamala Harris, which would have been an absurdity. Even if Trump lost, you could make the case that it should have been Trump, given, the assassination attempt and all of that. But, I mean, you have to stop for a moment and just say, what a turnaround. I mean, Time Magazine had that picture on the cover of him with the golf cart right before the election, like trouble, and was part of the media that was calling him Hitler and fascist. And now, Person of the Year, how did you do it, Mr. President? What do we make of it?
Well, I was sort of pleased that Time Magazine still prints a printed issue. It's only like when you see a actual noteworthy person like Donald Trump being Man of the Year that you know that they actually still print the magazine. Right. I didn't know that previously.
Yeah, I mean, there may be a handful of faded issues sitting on like a Jiffy Lube coffee table out there somewhere. But to be honest with you, Megyn, your reaction obviously is the right one. I mean, Trump is the Man of the Year. We didn't need Time Magazine to tell us that. I think it's sort of a outdated credential from a legacy media property that's been a cadaver for who knows how long. Like the last time I actually picked up a Time Magazine, it might have been during the cloning debate in the 90s.
Well, and he dominated news highs and lows. I mean, this is a guy who was indicted, 47 times in 3 jurisdictions over the early part of this year. He, 2 attempted assassination attempts. He clinches the nomination, all of these sort of things, and then, becomes president of the United States again. I don't think there's any man in American politics who's been more doubted than Donald Trump, and he proved everyone wrong. I had my doubts myself at various times when it didn't look so super good for him.
Right.
The man overcame all of it.
Yeah, no question.
I mean, I will say for the record, I said it was going to be Trump all along. Do you guys remember that? I mean, I said it was going to be him.
Of course.
Very prescient.
Who won the nomination and the election. So he does make a fair amount of news in the interview. That he gave them an interview in connection with the selection. And one of the things he says is they get into how he decided on his abortion stance to leave it to the states. And apparently this is what they report. He was in the private cabin of his plane flying on April 2nd to a campaign rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when he picked up a document that Susie Wiles, campaign manager, now chief of staff, had placed atop a stack of papers. The heading was not subtle. How a national abortion ban will cost Trump the election. Trump raised his eyebrows, quote, kind of a nasty title, huh, he said. Before he considered the memo, Trump had been on the verge of supporting a 16-week federal abortion ban. Think about that, how that could have changed this election. Kellyanne Conway is another advisor, had showed him polling indicating that barring the procedure after 16 weeks was more popular than making the limit 24. But Trump's speechwriter and policy advisor, Vince Haley, had raised an objection on a late March conference call, according to three people present. Quote, does he know that the 16-week ban will be stricter than existing law in a lot of the states? There was a silence. Probably not, said Trump's political director, James Blair. After flipping through Blair's presentation on the plane, Trump perked his head up. So we leave it up to the states, right? Advisors agreed. Great, said Trump. We'll do a video. Within a few minutes, he was dictating his remarks to Haley. I do believe you guys were on this show right after he did that, right? And we had a debate about his stance on abortion, how it had disappointed some of the more established conservatives in the party, but defended it here as smart politics, given the state of the electorate, the mood of the country on this issue. It is amazing how Trump got a couple of data points. You know, everything for him is transactional. This one's not deep in his core. He's like, what's going to get me elected? And that's where he landed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes to show a couple of things. One is that he was getting good advice on this campaign all the way through. I mean, they ran a really good campaign, and all you can ever ask for any candidate that's running an office of that level is to get a myriad of viewpoints and paint the full picture before a decision is made. It sounds like in this case, that's exactly what he got on a very contentious issue. It's also where he landed is consistent with where the American people have been for 50 years, right? I mean, you've had this Roe v. Wade decision that had this big sort of federal overlap over all the states legalizing abortion, preventing any sort of restrictions there within the states. And then when that was overturned, it was kicked back to everything the pro-life movement had argued for those 40 years, that it should go back to states and localities and people should make these decisions on their own. There shouldn't be this one-sided federal government that flips back and forth every 4 years depending upon who wins elections, outlawing something as significant as abortion in here. So I think he landed, honestly, in the only place that you could land on a really contentious issue like this in the context of the 2 years after Dobbs and the first presidential election since.
It saved him, given how much she highlighted that issue and how big it became. Even with Trump saying, I'm not going to touch it. It was a huge campaign issue. Imagine if he had been pushing a 16-week ban. I mean, it really could have changed the course of this election. Here's another couple nuggets. Pretty interesting. How advisors got him to stop bashing early voting. Oh, look who's here.
Mugglesworth, ladies and gentlemen.
Johnny Come Smugly has shown up for the party. Great to see you.
Good to be here. And can I suggest for President Trump, please ban all motorcades in D.C. while the Megyn Kelly show is being recorded. I would greatly appreciate that.
It's a simple request, sir. How they got him to stop bashing early voting. This was such an irritant for almost every Republican who's been watching elections. Why is he bashing early voting? It is the only way we're ever going to win again. You know, run up the vote, get our people in there early. Don't bank on election day voting because it rains, they have sick kids, work calls, whatever. And sure enough, this time around, the Republicans did show up early and Trump won. So it was such a hard, it's not like Trump hadn't heard that it's a good idea to encourage Republicans to vote early. He just wouldn't do it. He just refused. In his core, he seemed to believe fraud happens if you mail in your vote or if you vote before Election Day. And what they report is that it took a visit from Rob Gleason, former chair of the Pennsylvania Republican Party, to frame the matter in terms that made Trump agree. And I have to say, this is brilliant. This is brilliant because this is how you have to talk to Trump, you know, to sort of get through to him the way his mind works. Sir, your people are so excited to vote for you that they want to vote as soon as they can, Gleason told him during an April meeting at Mar-a-Lago, according to two top Trump officials familiar. They don't want to wait, but you got to tell them it's okay. You got to give them permission. From then on, Trump promoted absentee and early voting and directed the RNC to launch a mobilization drive targeting male voters. That's so good. Your people are so excited to vote for you. They want to do it as soon as they can. You just got to give them the green light. Like, they're chomping at the bit, sir. Give the people what they want, which is to vote Trump at the earliest second possible. It's a show of enthusiasm for you. And that was the way in that worked, guys.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens to be true. I mean, everybody was excited to get out and vote for him. That's why he won the popular vote. And there was some confusion about whether that people should be voting early, whether they shouldn't be voting early. When Trump announced that he was for it, it not only cleared up the confusion, but what he built and what they built at the RNC to turn out the vote was monumental. Charlie Kirk did a lot on this. And in Pennsylvania, what a contrast between how President Trump listened to a guy from Pennsylvania who was telling him how to win the state, and Kamala Harris, who refused to even put the governor of Pennsylvania on her ticket. It was a real difference maker. And the one other thing I'll say, Megyn, there's a common theme here with the two topics that you pulled out of this article. The first one, Trump knew he needed to win, and he wanted to win so bad he's willing to do anything. Same thing with this. He knew that he had to do something different to change the outcome this time and not have it taken from him the way Democrats did in 2020.
Yeah, I will say I had a little bit of experience with this because I remember, I had the opportunity to have a lot of visits with President Trump in his first term, and towards the end, when states were changing all of their voting rules to try to accommodate COVID. And as we've since found out, many of them totally irresponsibly and without proper controls and anything else. He was watching all that in real time. And so his reaction to early voting, it is a whole bunch of issues. One of the reasons why I think he's going to be a really good president the second 4 years, it's based on a life experience. He didn't spend a life watching politics and watching turnout mechanisms and being an operative. He knew what he experienced in 2020 when people were changing all kinds of early voting rules that obviously benefited Democrats a great deal, and he knew he opposed that. And so I think you recontextualize that now to a whole bunch of states that actually put in safeguards and had competent elections, California notwithstanding. Arizona, you can make some questions about it, although, they got to the right spot. Ultimately, once those are in place, you can make a very logical case. And this is not something he had an ideological opposition to in the sense of his own election. He just knew how it worked out the first time.
Well, and if you look back to previous elections before Donald Trump, the Republican Party won elections in states like Arizona on, the backbone of their turnout operation, which was absentee by mail and early vote in person. And so getting back to that, of course, was a huge advantage in 2020 because, Trump said only vote on election day is like swinging a weighted bat. Like we made it harder on ourselves. And then lo and behold, he does this and he wins the popular vote, not just all of the battleground swing states. And then I want to say as well, I think Trump did a great job getting on board with absentee by mail and early vote, but what a fantastic messenger was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance did an incredible job on the stump, on the trail, talking about the mechanics of early voting and absentee by mail.
Never missed an opportunity.
Never missed an opportunity. Never missed a media hit to mention it, and he did a fantastic job.
Smart. He's a smart man. He knew what it would take and didn't have the, trauma that Trump had from 2020 to stop him on the messaging. Now, speaking of 2020, he was asked about what he's going to do on day one, and he said one of the first acts that he will take will be to pardon most of the rioters on J 6th. And he said it's going to start in the first hour, maybe the first 9 minutes, he says, the pardons of the J 6 rioters. It's interesting that it's most of the J 6 rioters. It's not all, which I have no problem with. I have to say, I don't want to see pardons of people who assaulted cops. I really don't. No. But all these people who just wandered in there, and many of whom were welcomed by security and then walked around the Capitol for a short time and then left. I mean, it's ridiculous. These people have been made prisoners for years. They've paid their dues and then some on any alleged bad acts. But this will be very controversial and will be, if he does it within the first 9 minutes as promised, one of the first acts that turns the media back onto TDS and hating him and writing nothing but bad things about him.
Sure. Well, I think, Joe Biden expressed it very well. There are concerns that the Justice Department could politicize actions and go after, political enemies. So under that advisement from Joe Biden, I think Trump is well within his bounds to act if he believes the same way Joe Biden does.
He really did break the seal there.
That's it.
I think this would be a lot more controversial if not for Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and how he's used it and how he framed it. I mean, you're exactly right. He framed it as though his son was the target of a political prosecution without mentioning, 47 indictments against his political opponent or all the J6ers or everything else. But it opened up this discussion in a way where you could see a very reasonable way of handling all of that. I will say, I agree with you, Megyn. The violent offenders here, people that, had a sinister intent on J6 and they were hitting cops with flagpoles and stuff. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. And so, for people who sort of throw up their hands and, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I don't think that's true. And that's coming from somebody who had an awful lot of friends who were in that building, who had doors barricaded with desks in front of it, with people trying to break it down. It was very personal for a lot of us who knew people that were in that situation. And there were bad actors for sure. But the vast majority of them were not. And they were handled by the Justice Department as though they were the ones that were kicking in doors.
Yep. And the courts told us that some of those sentencing guidelines were excessive.
Yeah.
We already learned all that. It's been 4 years. Yeah. It's been 4 years.
Right.
If you paraded through the Capitol on January 6th, you shouldn't be in prison after 4 years. I mean, that just seems crazy.
Some people were numbskulls and got treated like they were dangerous felons. And some people were completely clueless that they were even violating laws or weren't even supposed to be up there. There is a large category of people in that group, which the left won't admit. So this is an interesting thing because I was talking to Paul Murray of Sky News, who I go on his show once a week in Australia, great guy, about how the media's been kind of quiet lately about Trump. And he was asking, do you think in America they're going to give him a chance at a second term that's not marred by constant demonization of Trump? And I said, no, no, they're quiet. Because Trump's been relatively quiet. And I do think Trump's in a better mood and he's a little bit calmer and a little wiser and speaking in a way that's more magnanimous and unifying. None of that's going to last. It's just not going to. That's not America. You guys are in this mix as much as I am, the political mix. And you guys both and I both know the J6 pardons are going to be hugely controversial, even though Hunter Biden. And then we're going to get to immigration and we're going to get to deportation of families, children, because that was another thing he said, immigration plans. He will order U.S. law enforcement agencies and potentially the military to embark on a massive deportation operation designed to remove more than 11 million people from this country. Now, I know the American public supports it, but the media doesn't. And the media is not going to want to see it. And they need to fill their papers and their broadcasts with news every day. And that news is not going to be Trump's doing a good thing. It's just not going to be.
Yeah.
So the other thing he said in this, before I give it to you guys, is he doesn't plan to restore the policy of separating children from their families, but he says, I don't believe we'll have to because we'll send the whole family back. That's what Holmes said too. And then adds, and he says, I would much rather deport them together. And then finally says, look, with respect to the general prohibition against using the military to enact deportations or to, against civilians, he says he will use the military to round up and deport these illegal migrants. He says it does not stop using the military if you're dealing with an invasion of this country. And then there's another report, we've seen this before, that his advisors are planning to build more detention centers to hold the migrants until they can be deported. It can happen in a day. So you're going to have, the media will call them camps. It'll be treated like a concentration camp. We'll have video of AOC down there in her white outfit again, looking at the children crying. And you're going to show the J6 prisoners getting out while the children are somehow in camps. And the narrative will start and everything will deteriorate back down to its normal, terrible status.
I mean, I think you said a few very critical things. Number one, the vast majority of Americans agree with this action, that the law should be followed. If you enter the country illegally, you've broken the law. And the law says you have to go back. And I think there's already been a precedent of how the media is going to be completely biased in this very subject. When we saw images of, oh my gosh, they've put children in cages, and then it's revealed that actually that photo was shot under the Obama administration. You saw the pod bros freaking out about it. They didn't realize they were working for the guy who did that. So the media has no problem lying and trying to color Trump as being some kind of a dictator going after innocent people. Trump is doing what the American people asked, which is returning these people who entered the country illegally.
Right. You said at the top, Megyn, they got to fill their newspapers with something. Wouldn't it be great if the headline at the top of the New York Times says, Trump doing what voters elected him to do? Right. That majority of Americans agree with the policy of deportation, which would be factual and accurate. But you're right. I mean, it is going to cost him some political capital after all of these stories and the talk of these camps and all this sort of stuff. And they just got to hold strong and know that the voters are behind them.
Right. And what the media is going to completely blow past are the thousands and thousands of fighting age men from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan who somehow ended up in Mexico and walked over our southern border. There are terrorists in this country that absolutely have to be removed. I mean, we're talking there are some estimates that there are more fighting age men who have come into this country illegally over the last 4 years than we have currently serving in our armed forces today. That is a major emergency for our country. And what President Trump is going to do is protect us from the dangers of the Biden administration. It's terrifying thinking the fact that we don't even know who's here, because the Biden administration has lost count. Not to mention, there are over 1 million people who have already been adjudicated as here improperly and scheduled for deportation. They blow right past that. They blow right past the fact that Barack Obama deported 3 million people when he was president.
Right.
And
nobody asked him the cost or the feasibility of that program. No, that was okay because it was Barack Obama. But if Donald Trump wants to do it, it'll be Adolf Hitler.
But let me tell you something. Rachel Maddow, just to take one, when we could take pretty much anybody over on MSNBC, her ratings are down. I mean, I'm going to get you the exact numbers, by half. Oof. She's down over 50% in the demo. In the overall number, the overall audience, she's down 43% in total audience. She was averaging 2.4 million. Now she's down by 1 million to 1.4. She could spare it. This is their highest rated show. In the key demo, the advertising demo of 25 to 54, she has shed 56% of her audience. She is averaging 103,000 in the demo. 100. Never. I mean, in the prime time, are you kidding me? Never. They would have fired me if I had a 100,000 in the key demo.
Winning is great, but honestly, I mean, I just will speak for myself. The downfall of our enemies is so much sweeter.
It's so good.
It's true.
It's so good. You just made the point, Megyn, that I was just about to make, which is the one key difference that's happened since 2017, when the media unleashed a 4-year campaign to basically try to undermine everything that President Trump was trying to accomplish, was that the media still had a little bit of credibility. It has fallen about 35-40% since that moment in time. Where people get that information, I mean, look, sitting on this show right now, we're a perfect example of that. I mean, the Megyn Kelly show has got a lot more people in demo than MSNBC has ever had in demo.
Right.
And so, yes, they're falling. Yes, they're going away. But they're also just what they are clinging to is this last partisan remain of this very hardened group that the vast majority of people can't identify with at all. And they're going to seek their information elsewhere. Legacy media sources are going to be shrill. They're going to be terrible. They're going to say all the most horrible things. Unlike 2017, they don't have an audience for it. And I think unlike 17, Republicans in particular have no patience for it. And I think
that's how they're going to get their audience back, Holmes. Trust me. The Democrats are licking their wounds right now. They're very sad. They can't believe that they were lied to, that they were wrong, that Kamala didn't really have it. She wasn't joyful, and that we didn't respond to Tim Walz and his jazz hands. They don't get it. Okay. So they're all, watching Little House on the Prairie reruns if they know it's good for them. And they could instill values. We talked about that with Dr. Leonard Sachs yesterday. And they are avoiding the TV news. But as soon as Trump, I've been through this on cable news many times, as soon as he is sworn in and starts doing things, they're going to come back. They're going to come back to MSNBC and CNN if those channels do what they are in the business of doing, which is bashing Republicans and Trump in particular. There is no business model for them in going more fair and open-minded to Trump. So they will get those numbers up from loss of half of our audience by doing the one trick that these ponies know how to do, which is bash Donald Trump. And Trump, his magnanimous tone will change, and we won't be back necessarily to double impeachments and criminal prosecution threats and so on. But we will be back to very divided, hateful media coverage of Trump. So this honeymoon period is going to be super short, and I guess he should enjoy it while he can.
Yeah, no question. I guess my only point on that, Megyn, is that it's now consolidated at left, right? Your CNNs of the world, your MSNBCs, your Washington Post, your New York Times, even your Associated Press, for crying out loud. It's now a consolidated leftist audience. And where you get into trouble politically for a new president when you're entering into contentious issues is when you start bleeding into the center right or into your base of concern. That is a concern for, 100 years of politics, or at least since the advent of television with network news. It's not really that big of a concern right now that you're going to start losing those center-right voters because they don't live there anymore. They're just not interested in it. He's going to have a longer leash. You're entirely right that they're going to consolidate the left. They're going to make it entirely impossible for him to have fair conversation. But I think his ability to withstand that is much greater than it was 8 years ago.
I also think it would be very important. It's incumbent upon independent, reliable sources of information like ourselves and your show as well, Megyn, that we highlight when these actions are taking place that here's the issue. The Biden-Harris regime created this broken system where they would say, show up to court, and then people would go missing. I think during that entire time, independent information sources should highlight the fact that here's the problem. These people who were under this Joe Biden system of being handed a slip of paper, show up to court and don't show up, that's why this action is having to be taken. We're dealing with the problem that Joe Biden created.
You think the on your honor system wasn't a great way to enforce the law?
Amazing.
Who knew?
Yeah, it's like that big banner that they put on every Trump rally, Trump will fix it. Just like Bob the Builder.
So that's the message that needs to be put out there when people see that Trump's following through on his campaign promises that they wanted.
The media is in a panic about what's happening in terms of their fecklessness, and they feel the power and control slipping away. MSNBC and CNN feel their viewers slipping away. But it was embodied in a clip that was on X this week between Leslie Stahl of CBS's 60 Minutes and Peggy Noonan, who used to be a Reagan speechwriter and now writes a column for the Wall Street Journal and has for many years. And I mean, would you take a listen to Leslie Stahl describing her dread over the loss of mainstream media power?
If you watch the opinion of us, how many people trust the press anymore? I mean, we're way down there with the lawyers.
Yeah. You're way down there with Congress.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're way down there with Congress. I despair. Seriously, I worry greatly, and I think there are other institutions that have been suffering. And you're right not to blame Donald Trump 100%, obviously. Started many years before. But we're at a point where if the President of the United States is going to say legacy media is dead, well, I guess Musk said that. Legacy media is dead.
And he wants it dead. He wants other media.
But it is kind of, sort of, hobbling right now. And I don't know how it recovers. I'm very dark about it.
It's just the most encouraging videos I think I saw all week long. I've never seen something that I wanted to watch over and over and over again because first of all, she's blaming Trump for the fact that they've been lying to people for the last 30 years. Like that's he was the one who told them to lie about him. Like get out of town.
He fooled them into believing they couldn't trust the legacy media, Ashbrook.
Right. And I mean, them having such a hard time with it is really one of the greatest developments. And it reminds me of a line that the great coach from the Buffalo Bills, Marv Levy, used to say, if it's too hard for them, it's just right for us.
That's so good. She doesn't know. Like she's actually genuinely befuddled. She says, I don't know how it, meaning legacy media, recovers. I have a lot of suggestions for you, Leslie. Should we go over them? Like maybe Don't say the laptop can't be verified when it can. And then when your own organization verifies it, come out and do a mea culpa and admit that you embarrassed yourself. Maybe don't stealth edit the presidential candidate on the Democrats' side interview with 60 Minutes, your flagship program that you're an anchor of, without telling us. And then when it becomes a controversy, refuse to release the transcript because you're more interested in running cover for the Dems than you are in honest reporting. Maybe don't host a vice presidential debate where you fact check only one side. And then when your fact check gets fact checked by the vice presidential candidate on the Republican side, you cut his mic. Just a few thoughts off the top of my head on what you can do about it.
I love it. And I love that clip because I think it gets to the heart of the matter in this whole segment, and sort of back to Holmes's point. It's really not about audience, whether they have half the audience they used to have or they get all that audience back by ginning up all the hatred of Donald Trump after he's sworn in. Ultimately, the question is, are they going to have any credibility? Is anything that they say actually going to matter? No matter how many people are actually listening or watching. And I think it's going to be a lot less. And I think the demonstration of that is this election, right? Like, they lost half their audience. Great. I'm very happy about that. They had that audience in June. Mm-hmm. They had that audience in July. They had it in the run-up of the election, and people were pulling their hair out, the thought that Donald Trump would become president of the United States again. And then he won. So clearly all of the things that they're saying, it doesn't have the same juice.
They're damnedest.
They did their damnedest.
I mean, if you looked at the opening of every network news broadcast in the final month of that election.
Norah O'Donnell was just egregious.
Egregious.
I mean, it was a straight.
What network is she on again?
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Hello.
But there are campaign ad teams that are like, wow, we didn't think of that. That's great. What a great attack, Norah. I'm going to try to repurpose that.
All right, here's another one. So this is some of the more distressing news in his Time magazine interview for me and others like me. But I think Trump will fix it. I think Trump was just sort of shooting off the cuff and will do what he promised to do. But I got to be honest, these are terrible answers he gave on the trans issue. Terrible. He was asked, okay, let's see. In 2016, you said transgender people could use whatever bathroom they chose. Do you still feel that way? I don't want to get into the bathroom issue, he says, because it's a very small number of people we're talking about, and it's ripped apart our country. So they'll have to settle whatever the law finally agrees. I'm a big believer in the Supreme Court, and I'm going to go by their rulings. And so far, I think their rulings have been rulings that people are going along with. But we're talking about a very small number of people, and we're talking about it, and it gets massive coverage, and it's not a lot of people. That's the wrong answer, Mr. President-elect. The answer is, I don't believe men should be in women's bathrooms or private spaces. That's the proper answer. I realize Trump hasn't been paying attention to this, but this is the wrong answer for Republicans and for the country and for women. Then they ask, but on that note, there's a big fight on this in Congress now. The incoming trans member from Delaware, Sarah McBride, says we should all be focused on more important issues. Do you agree? I do agree with that, he says. On that, absolutely. As I was saying, it's a small number of people. It was a big issue, though, on the campaign, the reporter follows up. This is the reporter saying it's a big issue, and he's saying it's not. One of the ads that your campaign put the most money behind was the Trump is for us and Harris is for they, them. And he responds, well, it's true. Trump is for us. And the reporter says, right, obviously it strikes a chord. And Trump adds, Trump is definitely for us, okay? And us is the vast, vast majority of people in this country. And also, I want to have all people treated fairly. Forget about the majority or not majority. I want people to be treated well and fairly. And then they ask, last question on the trans issue. Will you reverse Biden's protections for trans kids under Title IX? And his answer is, I'm going to look at it very closely. We're looking at it right now. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at everything. Look, the country's torn apart. We're going to look at everything. That's not the right answer, sir. With respect, that is the wrong answer. You had the issue correct in your campaign video that features you on camera saying this.
My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent.
Mm-hmm. That's the correct answer. Please repeat what you said on the campaign trail, and everything will be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, I think you're right. And I actually think that is where he's going to land. In fact, it's happening already. You've got a Republican House of Representatives with an NDAA. It's a defense authorization bill where that action is actually happening right now. I mean, this week, a bill will pass and go into law that has the beginnings of pulling back all these transgender rights that the Biden administration invented out of thin air. So I think there's going to be an appetite to do all that. I actually think he will land on the right side of it. I think what you're struggling with in the transition period is, you got only so much political capital. He knows the border issue is the reason why he is where he is. He knows that this tax issue is absolutely imperative to restoring American economy and ultimately what they think of him at the end of the day. And he knows that all of that is going to take the full width of everything that they've got in that administration and all the political capital that they've accumulated. So he probably doesn't want to get out and start making declarations about all kinds of other things that he knows he doesn't have to do on day one. All that being said, Megyn, you are right. The answer to that was the answer that he provided during the course of the campaign. I just don't read that as what he said is a walk back. It's less than what I'd want to hear for sure. But I think we'll still get there.
I believe you're right. And I pray you're right, because I don't want to have this fight again, but I will. Yeah. If I have it against a president I support and voted for, I will. I will have it with him. I will have it with anybody. Yeah. I don't care what their partisan stripes are. Boys should not be playing in girl sports. And Title IX, by the way, should be revised by Trump the same way Biden revised it, which was through the Department of Education and Miguel Cardona, who did it on his own, accepting comment from the public, which I'm sure was overwhelmingly against these changes, but they did it anyway. And Trump should undo it. He should do to it with Linda McMahon exactly what he did to it with Betsy DeVos. And that's what should happen. I think that's what will happen, because I think Trump just isn't focused on this. And I agree, the deportations are more important. That should be, where he spends most of his political capital. But this is not going to cost him anything. That 70% of the American people, plus, it's as high as almost 90 in some polls, don't want to see boys and girls sports. This will cost no political capital. So this is a no-brainer. Someone's just got to get to the president and make that clear. And I believe Elon Musk is the person to do that, because he is totally eyeball to eyeball with me on this issue. That's really clear. Okay, so there's that. Now, while we're on the topic of Time Magazine and its celebration of random people, we need to talk about Caitlin Clark. Yep. So Caitlin Clark of Iowa, but now playing for Indiana in the WNBA, gets honored in Time as the Athlete of the Year. I don't know. I guess they need a lot of covers or something. I mean, whatever. They just want people who are going to sell their shitty magazine. So she gets selected as Athlete of the Year. And what does Caitlin Clark do? Like, this woman who's a superstar, she's the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. And she's become a phenom in part because the players of the WNBA can't fucking stand her. Why? Because she's white. It's abject, absolute racism. It's total racism. And one of the things that's been admirable about Caitlin is she just continues to play her game and put points on the board. And she does very well, and she wins games, and she puts butts in the seats, and she sells tickets, and she gets people tuning in on television. And all really we want to hear from anybody about this is thank you. Thank you to Caitlin Clark for making our league relevant and so on. But instead, she's been bullied repeatedly by the players in this league. She's been assaulted physically. She's been scratched in the eye. And I mean, all of this is on camera. We've covered it repeatedly on the show. So she gets this honor. And all she has to do is continue staying above it. Thank you. I'm grateful. Love being in the WNBA, and I love my colleagues who I play with, my teammates. That's it. Instead, she decides to go racial. And what she says is she feels the need to acknowledge her white privilege. Basically, she's sorry she's white. She feels really bad about it, though, so you should give her a pass. And then she makes a point of saying the ones we really need to be celebrating are the black women on whose backs this league was built, which I have to tell you is so condescending.
It really
is.
It's
true that most of these black women have been bullying her and want her to understand it's their league. Hello, you don't own the league. Blacks don't own the league, just like whites don't own tennis or golf. Nobody owns the league. This is America. Anybody can play if they're good enough. But they want her on the knee. You'll bend the knee and you'll apologize for being white, and you will suck up to the black women who built this league before you, or you will be beaten. You will be assaulted and you will be bullied with no friends. So she does it. She finally did it. She bent the knee, self-flagellated over white privilege, and look at the black women in this league. And I have to tell you, if I were a black woman in that league, I think I'd say, screw you. Because don't treat me like I am the ugly stepsister and you are Cinderella, and no prince is going to look at me unless Cinderella says, oh, give her a little time. Oh, put her in the spotlight for a moment. I would be offended, genuinely offended by her. Like, look over there. Look at them. They're not white. They did a lot too. And here's the other thing. It's totally insincere. And here's how you know it's totally insincere. Because if Caitlin Clark really felt uncomfortable in the spotlight as the newbie who's white, because white people didn't build the league, she wouldn't have said yes to being Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. So either walk the walk or don't. But what you're doing here is trying to have it both ways. You're too cute by half, and you've managed to piss off your fan base. Go ahead and look at my Twitter feed and the comments under my tweet on this. She's lost thousands of fans, maybe more, as a result of this. And you will never appease the race bullies in the WNBA, ever, because you're too popular, you're too talented, and too white. That's it.
Well, I think you completely nailed it. As soon as I saw that statement from her, I was incensed, because it was only a couple of days earlier I'd been telling Duncan's from Indiana. I was like, wow, I see all these clips of this player you've got. She's amazing. She's done great. And I've been following during the season her getting bullied by all these other players who are jealous of her, who are jealous of her success. And meanwhile, these statistics would come out where all the road games where she plays sell out. They're the best selling games of the season is when she comes to town. And for her to turn around and bend the knee to these people who've been bullying her, like you said, it's never going to be enough. It's not just her trying to get these people to like her who've been mean to her. It's her complete betrayal of her fan base. People, like, for years and years, men have been complaining that ESPN doesn't cover sports. They cover critical race theory, and they're sick of it. People watch sports for escapism, to see competition. Caitlin Clark was an inspiration to so many of my friends' daughters. And for her to go out and say something like this, to try to, like you said, being like, oh, no. Black players need me as a white savior to bring them and highlight them. This racist equity system, all it does is divide Americans. And the result of this election, in large part, was Americans saying, we're tired of that. We've had enough of that. And Caitlin Clark's going right back to that.
And DEI
That's
is
so right.
DEI is a nonsense thing, but can you think of any profession in which it's more nonsense than athletic competition, in which there are statistics and points scored? It's such a preposterous thing to claim somebody has privilege in a competition of athletics. And not to mention the fact of, you would never say something like that about the NBA, where there are hundreds of black superstars paid millions and millions of dollars. And by the way, that NBA subsidizes the entire WNBA. Yeah, right. So, and she's walking around talking about her white privilege. It's insane.
Well, here's the other thing, Duncan. Here's the other question. I don't remember Serena Williams apologizing for her blackness in tennis, which had been dominated mostly by whites. I don't remember Tiger Woods apologizing for his blackness in the PGA, which was dominated by whites. No one would even think of such a thing. They celebrated this new figure in sports who maybe didn't look like all the other figures they knew. They thought it was great. He was to be celebrated. That's how normal people have responded to Caitlin.
What they all had in common is that they fundamentally changed the sport, and they brought casual fans into the sport to become lifelong fans of the sport. It didn't matter what the color of their skin was. That's what Tiger Woods did to golf. That's what Caitlin Clark did to the WNBA. That's the sort of excellence that should be celebrated. And it's so weird to me that we had that entire ideology fail at the ballot box a few weeks ago, and now she's like the last one to get the memo. It's crazy.
Yeah,
imagine a world. We got to keep this going because it's like I'm so fired up about it. But imagine a world in which Serena and Venus take over tennis, they crush, and the thought pieces that are being written or the comments that they are required to say are, I just want to acknowledge that tennis was built on the back of white people like Chrissy Everett and Martina Navratilova and Billie Jean King. And, I have Black privilege in being here because of my however she wants to attribute that. It wasn't explained by Caitlin either, exactly how her white privilege got her some more attention in the league. That's the theory by some racists, that the only reason we want to watch Caitlin is because she's white and we can't stand watching the blacks, but we'll watch the white, which is absurd. She's by far the best. The stats prove it. That's why she's so popular. But in what world would we ever be comfortable saying to these black superstars, you better acknowledge the backs on whose, bodies tennis and golf and whatever white sport you can think of was built? I mean, it's an absurdity. It's racist on its face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, the thing that really strikes me, if you think about Time Magazine, it's not, they don't care about sports. It's a religious tract for the left-wing lunacy in this country. And what they care about is driving their politics forward. There are thousands of athletes who have had great years that they could highlight if they cared about highlighting a top athlete. Caitlin Clark is one of them. But this story and naming her really strikes me is something that was negotiated between her PR agent and Time Magazine, where the agreement was she would say what the left wanted to hear, and in exchange, she's named athlete.
Well, this is part of the sports culture, and it has been here for the last 5 or 6 years, that these are the kind of things that you get into when you do these sort of quote unquote mainstream pieces. But I think there's something that's much larger than all of this, and one of the reasons why we're so irritated about it is this election. You saw huge participation and definitive in how they came down amongst Gen X and older millennials. And one of the big pieces of that, in my view, is that we all kind of grew up in a social atmosphere where you just didn't think of people in white buckets and black buckets. And like all my heroes were young black athletes. And I never thought about that.
When I watched Family Matters, it wasn't like, oh, I'm watching the black sitcom.
Yeah.
You never thought about that as a kid.
Like the Cosby Show.
Cosby Show.
Like, you're like, you weren't like, oh man, well, let's watch the Black Show tonight. Like it just never had, that's not how we grew up. And somehow time over the last 10 years, all of that changed. And it took people a while to try to figure out how and why and what they could do about it. In this election, they finally said, fuck you. We are not doing this anymore. We are not going to discriminate people. We are not going to evaluate their character or their worth based on their skin color. We're not doing any of that anymore. And the extent that DEI and all of those people that want to push that agenda are doing that to us, we're going to throw your asses out. And that's exactly what they did. And so now you get the sports agents and all this stuff that apparently didn't get the memo. And
that's right.
My bet is, Megyn, I think you're talking about like a 22-year-old young woman who's sort of thrust into this cultural icon. I bet 5 years from now she's going to wish she had that back. And I don't think that. I don't think that.
I mean, right now, what we know about Caitlin Clark is she's reportedly dating some very, very woke leftist. But what we know about her is she liked Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris. So she seems to be telegraphing something about her politics, even though she doesn't often tweet or post about politics. It seems pretty clear she was in that lane hoping Kamala Harris got elected, though when asked about it, she tried to play it off as she was just, really in favor of people informing themselves about the issues and making sure they vote. Okay, sure. Yeah. There isn't a Trump voter in the world that would have liked the Taylor Swift endorsement of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So she definitely is a Democrat and probably a leftist who believes this crap. I have to think she believes in this crap. This is the first real, window we are getting into the way she thinks. And I couldn't care less if she's a Democrat. As I've said many times, the people in my family family are Democrats. A lot of people I love are Democrats. It's not about that. It's about this sick ideology and the fact that she bent both knees. She got down on both knees and begged for forgiveness for her whiteness and then was condescending to the black women in the league while she did it. It was an utter fail. Jason Whitlock has thoughts. She's also responded to my criticism directly. That's next after this quick break. We're all feeling pretty good right about now about where our country's headed. Better than we have in months, I think it's fair to say. But it's when we let our guard down that bad things could happen. This is why you always want to prepare for emergencies, no matter how good and comfortable life gets. And for that, there's My Patriot Supply. They have emergency food kits, solar power generators, and water treatment systems. And right now, you can get their 4-week emergency food kit for $50 off. Their 4-week emergency food kit includes some of my favorite meals, like creamy Alfredo pasta and snacks like sweet banana chips. With warehouses located across America, My Patriot Supply can send your 4-week emergency food kit in as little as 1 day. Go to preparewithmegan.com to get your 4-week emergency food kit right now. But don't wait. Emergencies can happen anytime. That's preparewithmegan.com to get your 4-week emergency food kit right now. So continuing our discussion of Caitlin Clark, here's exactly what she said, just so if you want to hear it in Time Magazine. I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think that's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. I mean, it's the most groveling, pathetic, please like me. I've tried to elevate you to my level in terms of attention, but there's only so much I can do. I mean, honestly, like she thinks this is going to work. This is not going to work with these black women. The ones who didn't have a problem with her whiteness are probably like, I'm good, white savior. And the ones who did will never be appeased.
Yeah, right. They're the ones that are giving her all the flagrant fouls and trying to scratch her eye out. And Smug's point, which is, I think, so true, and it's one that must be remembered in a moment like this, is like they're never appeased. You can bend your knees to the mob, and they always come back for more. There's nothing you can do to apologize enough.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So there's a lot of reaction to this. Outkick has done a number of good articles on it. Jason Whitlock, the best, reacted on his podcast, Fearless. Here's a bit of what he said.
That's what they're turning Caitlin Clark into, a woke monster. Caitlin, if you do these things, say these things, adopt these positions, we'll leave you alone. No one else is going to try to poke your eye out. We'll quit talking about you in this way, and you'll have some peace. Now, they've lied to her, and she'll find this out shortly, that nothing's going to stop these angry lesbians, the black ones in particular, are going to continue to try to destroy her. Period. End of story. Just out of just pure jealousy and their racial bigotry. You got to be like Megan Rapinoe. You got to hop on board with all the messaging. Welcome to the WNBA. Grab a girlfriend, reject your heterosexuality, reject your biblical worldview, and join us here in lesbian heaven, the WNBA.
That's a shame.
That guy is so funny.
Or is he wrong? Okay.
I don't know.
Caitlin, I haven't yet spoken about this. I just sent out a tweet saying kind of what I've just said in just one tweet. And it got a lot of pickup because people are, I guess, shocked that there's controversy about Caitlin Clark. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't give a shit. But she was asked about it. I don't even know who this reporter is. Who is this person asking her questions? Maria Taylor. Who is she? She's on NBC? Okay. So she asks Caitlin Clark about the comments I made or the Twitter or whatever, the tweet, and here's what happened.
Even today, earlier today, Megyn Kelly, she was saying that you were apologizing for your white privilege and the fact that you wanted to uplift Black female athletes and make sure that they were getting the shine, kind of like your pioneers were getting the shine that they deserved. And I just want to know how you feel or how you respond to some of those criticisms when you have to deal with something that it's really not your problem. Like, I feel like it's them looking in a mirror a little bit, but it still comes down on your shoulders.
I feel like I always have had really good perspective on everything that's kind of happened in my life, whether that's been good, whether that's been bad. And then obviously coming to the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing Black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important.
She's doing it again.
That's something I'm very aware of. And like I said, like, I try to just be real and authentic and, you know, share my truth. And I think I feel like one of my best skills is just blocking things out. Like, I don't really, the only opinions I really care about are the people that I love.
That's good. That's actually smart, and she shouldn't be listening to her critics. But that's not going to stop those of us who have strong thoughts about her bending the knee from speaking out. But she did it again. I earned everything, but show me another athlete who's done that. Who does that?
Yeah. So to me, here's the thing: is there should be such a severe cost for what she has done. Her jersey should be boycotted. Her games should be boycotted, because it's much bigger than her. It's this insidious ideology, and she has so many little girls looking up to her. And now they're being told, if you're white, I need you to just, you know, shrug a little. Don't let the spotlight be on you. It's up to you as a white person to be a savior and uplift Black players on your team. What a horrible message to send young children. That, no, you should not always play your best. No, you should let other people bring you down. It's a horrible thing. And as a minority, there's nothing more offensive than this equity ideology, which says, listen, you have no shot unless you have a white person who comes along and makes the stage for you. It's unbelievable to have this. Clarence Thomas has a great segment in his book, Create Equal, where he talks about how he opposed affirmative action because as a minority, people in the office would look at him like, you didn't get there because of your merit. You got there because of the color of your skin.
You earned everything, but. And you earned everything, but is the insidious ideology right there. And yeah, it's easy for Caitlin Clark to say that. But like, do you want every minority kid who gets into college to think the same way, have this, you know, nagging thought in the back of their head, like maybe I'm not good enough because of this system that's set up DEI.
Or every white female basketball player to think, I've got to apologize for my whiteness. I don't belong on this team. I'm somehow taking something that doesn't belong to me.
There's also something I didn't detect until that clip, which is there's this false humility involved in it too, where it's like there's a baked in assumption here that she is the league, right? I mean, she didn't even make the Olympic team. But there's this baked in assumption that well, now it's up to me to make sure that everyone else is recognized because obviously I'm the league. I mean, that in and of itself, I missed like the first 3 times in it. I don't think you could pick that up in the printed quote. But in that answer, man, it's a really pretty arrogant thing to just sort of surround yourself with.
That's why it's such a fail. It's such a fail because it's like, you know, I'm doing my best to try to get you to pay attention to these losers over here. But look, I mean, can I help it if I'm the star? I mean, that's really the messaging. That's why I say if I were a woman of color in the NBA, I would be like doubling down on the middle finger, Caitlin. Like, you know what? Don't do me any favors. But it's such an absurdity. You know, it wasn't that long ago that in journalism, there were no women. Truly, like there was Connie Chung and Barbara Walters and Jessica Savage. And that was, you know, like in the 70s, 1980. There were not, I don't remember them needing to say like, I just want to give a shout out to the men on whose backs this business was built. That's not how it works. And it's never how it works. I mean, like, that's why Serena didn't say anything about whites in tennis and Tiger didn't say anything about whites in golf. We would have been horrified if they had. It's why? Is it because that's the power group? You know, the men were in power and whites were in power and blacks are a minority? Well, guess what? White women are in the minority in the NBA, in the WNBA. So it works. There's no way of spinning your way out of it. There's zero reason for her to apologize, which is what she was doing for her whiteness, or be so fucking condescending to the black women in her league that she's been completely spun up, probably by agents. I don't care. Maybe the boyfriend. I don't know, even if that's true about the boyfriend. I'm just saying there's somebody in her life and in her head that's misguiding her. And if she continues down this road, she's going to lose all of her fans. Okay.
Well, she's a grown woman. She makes her own choices. She's made herself a star, and she's made the choice to do that and send such a terrible message to young children, and she should be held accountable for it.
Yeah. I'd like, before we break on this segment, Megyn, as a white man, I'd just like you to take a moment to thank Edward R. Murrow for everything that you've accomplished in your career. It's just, a little token of respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, I've accomplished everything that's mine, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out all the men who've come before me and built this profession. It's so ridiculous. It reminds me of that line. There's a line in Broadcast News, which is literally one of my top favorite movies. I absolutely adore this movie. And Holly Hunter is totally unsparing as this TV news producer. And she's giving, I think it's William Hurt, this like vain anchor who's rising to the top, notwithstanding his lack of intellectual rigor. And there's some scene where she gets after him and she's like, I've got all these opportunities and I hopscotched over everybody who put in the work, but at least I feel bad about it. And that's who Caitlin Clark reminded me of. I'm at the top and I've earned everything, but at least I feel bad about it. Oh, could you keep me from the left? That's my good side time. Could you just, on the cover, and could I wear this very sexy dress in my interview with ESPN where I look amazeballs and everybody's staring at me, but I feel so bad. Are there any black women in my photo? I'd like to get some black women in here. Oh, none available? Okay, just me. Just me then. Honestly, I'm starting to understand why they don't like her. Okay.
Megyn's social team, can we clip that and get that up?
That's a viral deal.
Spend a minute on Trump's cabinet, okay? We're going to get to the scary drone things happening in New Jersey too.
Oh, yeah.
And also bully Santa. But I got to spend a minute on the Trump cabinet and Kimberly Guilfoyle, okay? She's not cabinet, but she's been named as Donald Jr. and Kimberly broke up. And the same day they announced that she was going to be our ambassador to Greece, which is fine. The left is freaking out over this, but I did the same thing that I did when Laura Trump got made head of RNC, which was check all your prior biases on what you think an ambassador is or should look like. And in Laura's case, the head of an RNC, and ask what exactly is the job she's being asked to do and can she do it? And who is doing it now? Who is so special that he or he cannot possibly be replaced by this new person? And as soon as you put this choice through that analysis, you are clapping the elevation of Kimberly Guilfoyle, okay? Kimberly is a smart woman. She's a lawyer. She is totally self-made. She did not come from privilege at all. I believe her father was a cop, Irish immigrant. Mom was Puerto Rican. She goes to law school. She interns at the DA's office. She gets a job as a DA. She was a successful San Francisco district attorney. She did wind up marrying Gavin Newsom, who was mayor of San Francisco. Then she got herself into TV news, got herself into Court TV, and then Fox News, got her own show, got onto a hit show, The Five, where she was doing legal analysis, did wind up dating Don Jr., left Fox News, went with him. There was some scandal, in quotes, around her departure, which will come back to haunt her to some extent on her confirmation hearing. We'll let that play out. And has been a loyal Trump ally for the past 8 years, even at the times when Trump was at his lowest and the most loathed. She was there for him. She was next to him. She never abandoned Team Trump, not with a tweet, not with a stormy exit. And she deserves credit for that if you're talking about the man who now gets to make these choices. And so she's going to be ambassador to Greece. Was it a consolation prize? Maybe. But these roles are always given to rich donors. And so Kimberly's not rich, but she donated another way. She donated her time. She spoke at the RNC, 4 years earlier, and she defended him at every turn. So there you go. Here's the other piece of it. Can anybody name our current ambassador to Greece under this president?
Exactly.
I can't wait to hear who it is.
I'm going to introduce you to George Tunis. No, he's not the current one, right? This is Obama's nominee. for ambassador to Norway. Okay, the current guy, this is the same guy. Yeah, he is the current ambassador to Greece. And he was Obama's nominee for ambassador to Norway. So he's both. And would you take a listen to this Mensa member?
Ernest, have you been to Norway?
There are a lot of things that we're beginning to, there are a lot of markets that will continue to open up.
Let me just ask, as ambassador, how would you promote those trade cooperations?
Thank you for that save, Senator Johnson. It's important that we continue.
Oh, God.
Interesting.
OMFG.
Good.
Yeah. Look, if Kimberly Guilfoyle really wants to be confirmed to this job, she needs to start her opening statement by thanking George Tunis for building the program that she's standing on his shoulders. That he basically built what she has now kind of earned.
Yeah.
It's like a land acknowledgement.
Bobby Boy was an ambassador.
Wait, so he's a current ambassador to Greece?
Yes. So he's the current ambassador to Greece, and that was him.
Out a little bit.
That was him during his Obama nomination to be ambassador to Norway. Can we just watch it again? I would love to see the beginning of that again. Look at this bumbler.
Ernest, have you been to Norway?
There are a lot of things that we're beginning to, there are a lot of markets that will continue to open up.
Let me just ask, as ambassador, how would you promote
You're an idiot. Okay, move on. He did not get confirmed. I think Kimberly's going to be able to tell us whether she's ever been to Greece or not. I'm going to put money on it right now. So anyway, it's just nonsense. But of course, the media is freaking out because she was Don's girlfriend. So that's Kimberly. So, okay, ambassadors do need to be confirmed. Will she be confirmed? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Go ahead, Holmes. Yeah, if you have a comment, I'd love to hear it.
Look, the qualifications are not particularly steep for an ambassador, right? I mean, I remember all the way back when I started in this line of work that there were the Bush Rangers, which basically meant you bundled a whole bunch of money for a campaign and you had a particular interest in some part of the world. And that was basically the fit. And that's how it's always sort of
donate money and then you say, I would like it. That's how you become an ambassador.
Right.
Okay, let's do it quickly because I really want to get to these other two subjects. Will Pete Hegseth be confirmed? Yes or no? Down the line. Start with Holmes.
Yeah, I don't know that one yet. I think the hearing is going to be incredibly important. I think it's less about everything you've read in the newspapers right now about all the allegations. He's going to have an opportunity within the confines of the hearing to address that. And there are members, like Joni Ernst has expressed, she's been a victim of sexual assault. I mean, there are things that need to be addressed within the context of the hearing. I think the larger thing for Pete is how he intends to run the Pentagon. There are a number of senators on the Republican side whose votes are open for business on this deal. They want to be helpful to President Trump, but they're going to need some concrete answers on big ticket military procurement type issues that have had a lot of concerns about Ukraine and everything else. And those are real things that he's going to need to talk about.
Yeah, and
so maybe you won't say yes or no. Go ahead, Ashbrook.
Yeah, I don't think it's a no by any stretch. But I'm still open on it.
Yeah, I think it's, first of all, the guy is extremely impressive, and everything you hear out of these meetings that he's having on the Hill with all these senators is that he's come prepared with answers to their questions, specific questions that they ask. They've done their homework. He's been in there, and he is doing a really good job convincing people, from what I understand. So I think it's a maybe lean yes.
I mean,
okay.
I think
Duncan?
the attacks against him are absurd. I think, he has done a very good job refuting all of those allegations. And I think in particular, when you're talking about the Pentagon, an institution that has failed 7 audits, or like West Point, who was asked by a reporter if Pete Hegseth ever got a nomination to attend the academy, and they say no, and then he has to dig up the nomination letter that he got 2 decades ago to prove them wrong.
Yeah, hats off to the filing system.
He was accepted at West Point. And they denied it when ProPublica called them to ask whether he had ever even applied there. West Point said no, he never even applied, and no, he wasn't accepted.
And the inability for the Pentagon to pass audits or this West Point thing are a perfect indication of the dysfunction that currently exists in our Defense Department. How is it possible that Pete Hegseth is going to do a worse job rooting that out than Lloyd Austin? It's insane. I think the guy should be.
Right I'm a yes.
Go ahead, Smug.
I think Pete gets confirmed. I think you've done a terrific job showing the truth on these fake allegations that were brought up against him. I think that he has done a tremendous job supporting the veterans with his work for charity. And I think he is the right person for that job. He's someone who has served. And I think President Trump showed he has a mandate. I hope every senator understands that the American people are completely behind President Trump. And he made this pick for a reason. It's because Pete's the right guy for the job.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to go faster on the next one.
Yes.
RFKJ. RFKJ. Holmes, does he get confirmed?
Yes.
Ashbrook?
Yeah.
Yep.
Duncan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I think he gets confirmed too. Okay, good. And those are really the most controversial. I will ask you quickly about the wacky Surgeon General candidate who is, I don't know what's happening with this woman. She sounds pretty leftist. She was leftist on the COVID lockdown. She's lefted on the language she uses around the trans issue and children. She's been controversial amongst the right, but does she get through or do some of these senators vote her down? Holmes?
Yeah, I think this has popped up in a couple of different places. I also think the nominee for the Secretary of Labor has not the same set of issues, but also some concern from within. And that's where you start to get nervous because the Democrat Senate conference is not typically one that doesn't take a skin where they can get it. And they may ideologically be okay with some of these nominees, particularly the labor nominee, but I don't think they're going to give votes for it. If they think they can take a scalp, they're going to take it. So I don't know. I mean, some of those ones get a little dicey when you're dealing with something less than full-throated support from a Republican conference.
Mm-hmm. Ashbrook?
Yeah,
Surgeon General Labor?
Listen, I agree with everything that Josh just said about this labor nominee. There are concerns about support for the PRO Act and things like that Republicans really don't like, conservatives don't like, and you can see Democrats trying to take her out.
Yeah, I don't know. I know the PRO Act thing is an issue on the labor nominee, but like at the end of the day, if Nick Papagiorgio can be the ambassador to Greece, I think they should be able to find a way to get confirmed.
Tommy Boy? Tommy Boy.
No, that's a Vegas
cat.
vacation. Vegas vacation. Yeah.
Smug, do you agree?
I say yes. I think across the board for all of Trump's nominations, I think Tom Cotton made a great point. He said the media is trying to gin up the story that how Senate Republicans need to get some scalp and downvote anyone because it's some made up tradition. It's not. He had the numbers that the vast majority of presidential picks get confirmed by their own party in the Senate. And I think for President Trump, it'll be the same story.
Yeah, you only lost one in 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've got to move on to what Rosie O'Donnell has dubbed the alien invasion over New Jersey. And I know you guys have the finger on the pulse of the Rosie news. So, by the way, have you been following what's happened to Rosie? She's developed herpes as a result of Donald Trump.
Yes.
You saw that?
A very, very tough look, I might add.
It's vampire herpes. She said it only happens in sunlight.
Yeah.
So she's got herpes. I mean, just not for nothing, but there's an update on her herpes. She's been keeping us. I've got to play this there is news to get to, but I'm sorry. First, you need to watch this because I had to watch this, and therefore
this
you
is
must
where
watch
you do
this.
It to us. This is where this comes. Okay.
This is where we do it to you. Okay. This is which is the one we want? We want. Isn't it 20? It's 20. Is it 20 or 19, Deb?
Oh boy, I am nervous.
Oh God, I can't give 2 minutes over to Rosie O'Donnell. So she gives an update on her herpes, saying that it's being treated with a very small, very teeny tiny tube of Abreva, and she laments the cost of her new herpes cold sore medication. But then I've got to play this. I don't know. Why do we need to get updated? I'm telling you, next is hemorrhoids. And then, like my preparation H, it got the one on the top, but not the one on the bottom. So, okay. So, but then she goes on. She's very focused on New Jersey and the UFOs. You'll see why I'm playing this for you. SOT 20.
I have people saying, stop talking about the UFOs. I'm not going to stop talking about the UFOs. You know, when the Native Americans were here and Christopher Columbus pulled up in all of his ships,
And acknowledgement.
the consciousness of the Native Americans couldn't even imagine that those were boats full of people. And I think that's what's going on with all the UFOs all over the world. It's not just New Jersey. Pay attention, right? They're drones. From where? China sent over one balloon, and then they sent over thousands of plasma-like blinking ships. I mean, really. Excuse me, that was a burp. That was a Diet Coke burp.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous. Oh, I don't know if she got a Breva. I think she got ayahuasca.
How about in the land acknowledgement? I'm pretty sure Indians knew how to like float on water. They had canoes.
They had canoes.
They did have that.
Like, just when you think she can't get any grosser, why she's burping on camera? She's showing her a cold sore, and she's
you get an unidentified
burping on
flatulent
camera.
object. Like, it's not what I signed up.
Smug, thank you. I don't even know what. I don't know why my team is sending me the updates.
I thought the Zoomers were oversharers on TikTok. And not to be outdone, the boomers come in strong with the oversharing. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think you're absolutely right. Next thing is going to be the preparation H and the hemorrhoid.
I just can't even process that.
I feel like somebody needs to send her some Maalox or something to get that shit under control because no one wants to hear it. Okay, speaking of the alleged UFOs, put together some points because we've been dying to get to this story. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through what's happening. Obviously, there's been a hell of a year, so why not end it with mystery UFOs or UAPs? That's how they're referred to now. Unidentified, I can't remember what they're called. Steve Krakauer is obsessed with UAPs, so he'll tell me. Anyway, they're saying they're drones. What is it? Unidentified aerial or unmanned aerial phenomenon. Okay. Yeah. So they're saying that they are drones. We don't know what they are, but they are terrorizing folks in the good state of New Jersey. This started on 11/18, which I remember because that's my birthday. And there have been a whole lot of new developments in the last week. We're going to go through them. All right. Now, the first sighting, as I say, 11/18, the drones have been spotted in the sky every night thereafter. They've been seen over reservoirs, highways, military installations, and near President-elect Donald Trump's Bedminster golf course. During one incident, the drones prevented a medical helicopter from picking up a person injured in a car crash. What? A spokesperson for the Morris County Sheriff's Office described the drones as similar to small cars. They've said that they look like SUVs. A police chief for the town of Evesham in New Jersey, I don't know it, but they say most of this is happening in Ocean County by the shore in New Jersey, said witnesses have called the drones as large as an SUV with blinking lights on them. Here's a compilation of eyewitnesses capturing the objects on camera and describing what they saw.
There they are. There they are. There they are. Oh. Marmora, New Jersey.
We shouldn't be outside.
Go. But here they are. They look like a fucking triangle. They look like a triangle.
Oh my God, here we go. Here it is.
Look at that sucker.
Are you freaking
Lights are on.
What?
It looks like a drone.
No way. And an F-16 just flew over. No way.
This one is extremely low. It's loud.
It's really cute.
And it's huge.
It's so big. It looks so much closer in person.
Yeah, my camera doesn't do it. Looks like a spaceship, right? Like that doesn't look like a drone, right? That looks like a spaceship.
It's coming right for them.
It's like a small plane. It really is like a small plane. These are all drones in the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 right here.
That's crazy. The young guy heard in that mashup also captured one of the only videos we've seen of the drones around dusk. You see it gliding through the sky, and all these are going from dusk to around 11 o'clock at night, they say. Look at this. Another eyewitness told the New York Times the drones show up one after the other following the same flight path. A New Jersey lawmaker citing New Jersey State Police said the sightings, again, they begin around sundown, they go through 11 p.m., and sometimes the drone's lights are turned off, making them harder to spot. And police have indicated they do not appear to emit radio frequencies, which allows them to avoid detection. They don't know where they take off from or land. They do believe they're coming from the water, at least according to some of the officials. They say that they're not drones being flown by hobbyists or related to DHS. This is what they're saying. They don't believe they're hobbyists, and they don't believe it's coming from DHS. After the initial report in mid-November, the FAA banned drones from flying over a military base in Morris County and over Trump's Bedminster. State leaders told constituents the drones do not pose any threat to the public, no threat whatsoever. They don't know what the hell they are, but don't panic. How are we not supposed to panic or worry if you have no freaking clue what they are? And we had at least one lawmaker come out and say exactly that. On Tuesday, the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, came out and talked to reporters. Again, he said, don't panic. There's nothing to panic over. But he also admitted that he spent all day on the phone with the White House trying to get answers, and listen to how he described them.
I was on with the White House and Homeland Security leadership literally at the very top yesterday for pretty much all day. I'm hoping we'll get answers sooner than later. I would just ask folks to continue to let the FBI or their local law enforcement know when they see something, and we'll continue to do everything we can with our federal partners to get clearer answers.
Why is it so hard to get answers?
These are apparently as I understand it, very sophisticated. The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark. And, we're obviously most concerned about sensitive targets and sensitive critical infrastructure. So we've got military assets, we've got utility assets, we've got the president-elect's one of his homes here. This is something we're taking deadly seriously. We've gotten good cooperation out of the feds, but we need more, and that was my plea.
But no answers. And don't panic. After the governor's remarks, Republican State Senator John Bramnick called on the governor to declare a limited state of emergency and ban all drones until someone explains what the hell's going on here. But so far, that has not happened. New Jersey State Senator Douglas Steinhardt then went on Fox News and in an interview said that the objects are indeed coming from offshore.
The best information that we have available to us to this point suggests that these drones are coming from offshore, that when we try to make contact with them, they become evasive and elusive. From my perspective, if they are American assets, if they're American military, if they're American drones, and I think we owe the American people answers or explanations, but if they're not American made, if they're not American drones, then I think, we owe the American people action. And if no one else is saying, I'll be the first one to say it, if these are not American assets, then we need to get our assets into the air and blow one of these things out of the sky, pick up the pieces and figure out what we're dealing with. Because quite frankly, we're the United States of America. I mean, I think we need to do a better job here.
Douglas Steinhardt, right on. Stand by. There's more. Also on Tuesday, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee questioned the FBI Assistant Director of Critical Incident Response about whether the public is at risk here. That director, Robert Wheeler, admitted, we have no idea.
We do not attribute that to an individual or a group yet. We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those drone flights. It is concerning.
Is the public at risk? Is public safety at risk? Are we concerned that there are nefarious intentions that could cause either national security or a public safety incident that would put Americans at risk?
There's nothing that is known that would lead me to say that, but we just don't know, and that's the concerning part.
Yeah, there is something that's known. Hundreds of drones are flying over New Jersey the size of SUVs, and they go dark when you get eyes on them, and they won't interact with us. There's something. Yeah. So then yesterday, the story really took a turn when Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey went on Fox News and claimed that sources told him this is Iran. Watch.
Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones.
What?
That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. The military is on alert with this.
It's Iran? And only Jeff Van Drew will tell us the truth. There's a mothership in the Atlantic, well, right off the coast of New Jersey. What? Okay, but hold your horses, because not long after his remarks, a spokesman for the Pentagon came out and shat all over his claims.
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States.
What's happening? What's happening? Okay, so far, New Jersey Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia has given the best wrap-up of where things stand. She tweeted a long thread on X yesterday after meeting with New Jersey State Police. Bottom line, she writes, "We know nothing, period." She then went on to admit, quote, "To state that there is no known or credible threat is incredibly misleading." She said the state is shackled with what it's able to do. Any interception must be done by the feds. She admitted at this point military intervention is the only path forward and said there will be no answers in the absence of proactivity. New Jersey State Representative Brian Bergen told News Nation's Rich McHugh that he actually walked out of the briefing fed up with the lack of information.
I walked out because it was worthless. It was the biggest amateur hour presentation I've ever seen about anything. Okay, it was ridiculous. There were no answers. Every question that was asked by a member of the state legislature, great questions, no answers, no resolution. They don't know where the drones are coming from. They don't know who's doing it. They don't know why they're doing it, but they say there's no credible threat. The colonel of the state police said that he had a helicopter of his flying above one of these drones, a 6-foot drone or something. I can't remember exactly what he said. And he felt unsafe for his helicopter, so he just let it go. Just let it go. Where'd it go? Who knows? Didn't want to follow it because you didn't feel safe. Is that not the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard? They're saying no threat, but how the hell do they know? They don't know anything. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it come from. They don't know nothing.
Oh, they don't know nothing. And are we sure they're drones, by the way, and not alien spaceships? I mean, could Rosie O'Donnell for once be right? John Greenwald Jr. has been studying UFOs and UAPs for decades. We actually interviewed him on this program back in 2021, episode 116, if you want to check it out. And he said these drones are not alien. He wrote on X, an intelligent civilization won't travel light years just to check out New Jersey. he said, aliens are not going to show up and resemble drone swarms. And this guy does know what he's talking about. He's filed over 10,000 public information requests to the government trying to figure out what's out there and what's not. And he said he's kind of amused at people being so disappointed that he said they're not aliens, but that's his call. Maybe we can also feel comforted by the fact that Elon Musk does not believe that these are aliens at all. Here he is last month talking to Tucker Carlson.
If anyone would know about aliens on Earth, it would probably be me.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with space stuff. And I've seen no evidence of aliens. So I would immediately tweet it out. This says split second. That'd be like one all time, probably the top tweet of all time. I found one, guys. It's a jackpot. There's some 8 billion likes. It was like some general, I think in the 60s, who they said like, show us the aliens, like Area 51, etc. And he said like, listen. We're constantly trying to get the defense budget to expand. And you know what would really get no arguments from anyone? If we pulled out an alien and said, we need money to protect ourselves from these guys. How much money do you want? You got it.
So even good. Doge would let that money stand. Okay, so it's probably not aliens. I guess it's not Iran. That's what the Pentagon says, but they lie to us all the time. Governor Murphy of New Jersey has no idea. The FBI claims to know nothing. The White House isn't saying. So what is going on? A retired Navy SEAL, Clint Emerson, who now runs a security firm, said this is probably a secret U.S. government program. He spoke with the New York Post and said the program is likely so top secret that when our government officials claim they don't know what it is, it's probably true. They probably actually don't. So is that comforting at all, guys? Do you feel better or worse about
but again, like, why would you pick New Jersey to conduct, a densely populated area?
Hey, I'm flying here.
On there.
Yeah.
But like,
they did find alien life, and then they found out it was just Snooki and the situation. They turned right back around, back to the Iranian mothership. I like that last explanation the best, don't you think? Why wouldn't we be shooting these out of the sky unless we know it's us or somebody in charge knows it's us?
Oh, we'll do it somewhere else.
I just
scare the shit out of people.
I can't imagine an adversary assembling a swarm of drones and then keeping the running lights on the drone. Well, you know what I mean? Like, so that doesn't make sense to me.
All of it is sort of indicative of why January 20th can't come soon enough, because you've got like state reps and like local sheriffs and stuff. Like, you need, like, Roscoe Pico train is going to be the one that figures out what the thing is flying over your head. And like, the feds don't say anything. They don't know anything. There's no federal government response. Like, you have an obligation. I mean, the first and most important part of an administration is to make sure that your citizenry is protected, particularly against foreign threats.
Yeah.
If there is even a little bit of a question about whether there's Iranian, whether there's whatever, you have an obligation to go out and say, nope, military demonstration or something. It's not giving away secrets, but you gotta satisfy that. And the fact that these guys let a balloon fly halfway across our country is indicative of this larger problem that maybe they don't have their eye on the ball at all.
I think that's the heart of the issue. Why Americans have no clue what's going on is because the loss of trust in the government to protect them. When you had a Chinese balloon fly all the way across America, and this administration has shown time and time again that American safety is not their priority whatsoever. So now we're left with a vacuum of information, and you have all these people trying to come up with their own theories. It could be aliens. Americans aren't feeling safe right there, and it's because the Biden administration has shown that they don't care about protecting Americans. Just today, Joe Biden pardoned 2 Chinese spies. Do we really believe he's trying to keep us safe in the last days of his administration?
By the way, spies who stole technology from aviation companies.
Oh, weird.
Including General Electric.
Huh. Interesting.
Here's the question, though. If it's us, then why are we still doing it? Once it became a big story here, wouldn't we have said, well, all right, maybe like we had our time. We've been doing it since November 18th. Let's shut it down now that it's the story of every massive media organization. So that's weird. And if it is us, whatever team knows that it's us would definitely be feeding a lie out about it. There'd be like, oh, it's this. They wouldn't be just like, gee, we don't know, right? I feel like they'd be feeding us a lie of some sort. Maybe that's why Van Dyke was, whatever his name is, was sent out there. Maybe somebody tried to get him to pin it on Iran. I have no idea what's happening here. I'd love to know more. I think, will this mystery be solved?
I can't believe in a state full of Italians, no one shot one of these down.
As a New Jersey property owner, I would love to see them do it because they do appear to be unmanned. Okay. So we're taking your submissions, members of the audience. Email me, Megyn at megynkelly.com. When we come back, Bad Santa. Don't go away. Are you ready to challenge yourself and dive deeper into the ideas that shape America? PragerU is a conservative nonprofit that promotes American values through educational videos that reach millions of young people every single day. PragerU's 5-minute videos deliver the best ideas from the best presenters in 5 focused minutes. 5-minute video hosts. It's a great idea, by the way. It includes Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Vivek Ramaswamy, VDH, and many more. Right now, PragerU offering you a chance to expand your knowledge on a range of topics through their exclusive 5-minute video challenges. Learn everything you ever wanted to know about political science, economics, the Constitution, American wars, and the Founding Fathers. When you sign up for a PragerU challenge, which is 100% free, you receive a different top-rated 5-minute video every day. You will also receive a special edition ebook for each challenge exclusively from PragerU. Join the millions of others who are already benefiting from these powerful bite-sized lessons. Go to prageru.com/challenges and sign up for free today. You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even my sweet Strudwick. I mean, honestly, he's getting a little better. He's calming down a little bit. It's starting to happen. I'm afraid to say it out loud. Anyway, they have a great life, but some dogs are not so lucky. And this is why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They have rescued thousands of dogs, plus cats and horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter and safety, and most of all, love. And they've been doing it for more than 45 years now. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need. And check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love our Thunder in Strudwick, but would like other dogs who need love to find it too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. All right, guys, so it's the time of year when we all watch our favorite Christmas specials and get ready for the big holiday. And we do that even though our kids are now getting older. Now my kids are 15, 13, and 11, but we all still love it. And so we started with the animated classics. We did Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and we did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it did occur to me at this point in my viewing of these classics that Santa is portrayed as a bit of a prick in these, in the one special in particular, and that is Rudolph. He is ostracizing, somewhat bullying, intolerant of differences, and I will give you Exhibit SOT 55.
He's got a shiny nose.
Shiny? I'd even say it glows.
Well, we'll simply have to overlook it.
Now, how can you overlook that? His beak blinks like a blinking beacon.
Well, Donner, where's the new member of the family? Great bouncing iceberg.
Now, I'm sure it'll stop as soon as he grows up, Santa.
Well, let's hope so if he wants to make the sleigh team someday.
Really?
For crying out loud! Fireball, what's the matter?
Get away! Get away from me! Now! What's this nonsense here, Bucks? After all,
Hey, look at the beak.
Hey, buy us new.
Fireball, boys, stop calling me names.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Donner, you should be ashamed of yourself. What a pity. He had a nice takeoff, too.
Santa is a bully. And that's not it. Who could forget when the little elves put on a preview of their Christmas concert for Santa, and take a look at how he reacts.
Ho, ho, ho. We are Santa's elves. Ho, ho.
Well, it needs work. I have to go.
What does Papa know? It's beautiful. You keep it just the way it was. Papa? Papa!
How did I never notice this before, guys?
He likes to run a tight ship. And plus, it's a 1950s classic, if I'm not mistaken, where like the mantra is Rudolph looks different and different is bad.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Santa's a man with a lot of responsibilities. He has to deliver like 4.3 trillion presents in one night. He can't deal with these unknown variables. This guy's nose looks like it's going to blow up. Who knows what's going on? Maybe they've loosened up immigration. You've got these dudes over with a picking nose. He's not taking risks. He's got to take care of kids. And then also, I think it's almost like the problems that we're seeing today with DEI. You're trying to highlight someone just because they're different. If he's the best deer for the job, let him fly. And that's the lesson. Yeah. He proved his worth. Didn't say, I have to highlight the other deer who came before me.
No, he went right. And they took out the abominable snow monster. And in a blizzard, suddenly this thing that he was ostracized for became an asset for Santa.
Yeah, and these elves, they have all to prepare their concert, and they can't give him number one.
And a little bit of a
get out of here.
He's a quality control guy. He delivers a lot of toys. They got to make a lot of toys. You got to get it right the first time.
I didn't see this coming. Team Santa. All of it is justified. I get it. It is a new era. It's the dawn of a new day post-Trump. We defend Santa. We don't care how much of a bully he is.
And once we annex Canada, the North Pole will be in the United States of America again.
That's right.
And we can make those toys right here.
Right here. American made.
Good point.
I love Smug's line. He can't be dealing with these unknown variables. Love the fellas. And we are back tomorrow, everybody, with Hugh Hewitt and more. We'll see you then.